Hello, listeners of the Mad Scientist podcast. This is the first Roundtable episode that we will be doing. So the idea is to do 2 Roundtables a month and then 2 full episodes. And I am here joined with Marie Mayhew, a fellow ARC member, and... No?
No.
She's shaking her head. No, I'm not with... She wants to use...
I'm still with you.
She wants to use a pseudonym.
It became all real. It became all official.
Oh, God.
And I got inside my own head. Keep going.
Oh, God. Okay. So the idea here with these episodes is that they will be less formal, obviously, and much more funny, hopefully, than the weekly episodes, which I try to make funny anyways, but I don't know. Sometimes the jokes, I'm sure, fall flat. Anyways.
It's going to be refreshing because I have absolutely no science background whatsoever, and we're probably making up a lot.
It's going to be super refreshing.
Alternative facts.
So this alternative facts. So this is
all alternative facts all the time.
This is the I guess we're gonna call this the Mad. Oh, so I was thinking the Mad Science Roundtable. But yeah,
not that one.
It's a good. I don't know. We'll have to think of a good title. Anyway,
okay, I'm working on it.
All right, we're working on it. Welcome to the Mad Scientist Roundtable, featuring Christopher Cogswell and Marie Fists of Iron Mayhew. All right, so, yeah, this week, what happened in science this week?
I'll tell you what didn't happen in science this week.
What didn't happen?
Its future.
Yeah.
Pretty much everything didn't happen in science this week.
Yeah. So
how as somebody who is a scientist and actually has skin in the game, like, are you just like, I think Canada.
So it's
Zimbabwe.
Really,
I don't know.
It's really funny actually. The Canadian, basically their Department of the Treasury head came out and said that this attack on immigrants and immigration in the United States is going to be really good for Canada's economy.
Oh my God, yeah.
Which it totally will. So the thing is, I don't think people realize, I mean, just let's take my field for example. I would argue that it's something like, so I'm a chemical engineer for those listening that haven't listened to the show before. In my field, like in engineering, I'd say 60 to 70% of people who get their PhD or master's degrees are foreign nationals. And most of them end up trying.
We've got to keep them out. We've got to keep them out.
They're clearly not people we want. Like, that's the stupid thing. Like, they come here, we pay them to come here to study, right? Like, they're phenomenal students. They're absolutely these are the kind of people we should be putting.
Best and brightest.
Exactly. These are the people we should be keeping. But instead, we make it really hard for them to stay. And then we come up with dipshit things like this stupid immigration ban or whatever. It's terrible. I mean, it was funny. One of the best professors at Northeastern is from Iran. He's phenomenal. And his family some of his family's still there. He still goes home to visit and stuff. He can't go home and visit anymore. He can't bring his sisters or brothers or them to come visit his family in the United States. This man invented the kidney dialysis machine practically. He's responsible for a huge chunk.
And he's on a no-fly list now.
Yeah, now they're just throwing crap on him. It's terrible. Anyways, yeah. No, it's bad, man. I mean, yeah. No, it's bad. It's bad.
But so here's my question, because here's what I keep thinking, because I hear Bill Maher and he's writing, he's like, he's just signing these documents. They're like signed Twitters, right? Signed tweets that he does. But
China is bad and dumb. Hashtag cake that. Yeah.
Putin's good. We can work with him. Wouldn't it be nice if we had better relations? All this shit, and it's like, I don't know. One, none of it's actionable. None of it's got a plan behind it. I mean, are they just letting him just sort of sign whatever crap they want to let him sign? I mean, how much of this is actually going to? Because he signed a lot. That was more than any president within the first, like, especially the first week. I don't have a
Yeah, no, it's been like 9 days, and he's flipped the proverbial table over, right? Like, yeah, I don't know, man. I mean,
he's doing something. I guess.
Well, I had some guy on Twitter that like responded to something I said on some CNN tweet or something. I'm like pissing in the wind, right? I'm like, CNN, listen to me. But he responded back with like, well, Trump's getting shit done. It's like, well, that's like, like, who cares what he's getting? You know what I mean? It's like,
that's a cold comfort, isn't it? Like, I guess you can say that. Yes, but the question is, like, is he, like, he's just stirring up a huge shit pot. I agree with that.
Yeah.
But is any of this coming out of, is it just creating more, clearly I think it's creating more instability than any kind of anything else. Like, I can't even, the other thing is, like, how is he going to keep this up? He can't keep this up. I mean, look at Kellyanne Conway. She's like, seriously, like, she's got this twitch, like, right above her eyebrow now when and she's just like on this automatic loop. Like, I saw her on NPR News or something last night, and she was just like, was just saying the exact same talking points faster.
Yeah. Well, there was
can't slow down, or else she's going to break. She's like this automaton that's just going to break at some point.
I saw there was an Onion article that was titled, it had a picture of Kellyanne Conway just like smiling at the camera, and it said, "You would do the same thing if a witch had your father in a tiny jar." It's like, yeah, you know what? That might be the only explanation we can come up with. I wonder, like, I don't know, man. I mean, the thing is, I think the thing with science and like the stuff that he's doing with science is that I don't think people realize how intertwined the two things are. Like, people assume industry, like, like companies like Exxon and whatever will pay for science to happen. But that's only like 10% of their funding. Government pays for something like, I'd say 60 to 70% of government research, of like scientific research, through like the EPA or the DOE or the DOD. And like, yeah, he just like froze. He like froze the EPA. Yeah, he's like, oh, who cares? Who cares? Who cares about all this? Who cares that the EPA is funding research into like, nuclear energy as well, and coal and all the crap that he's supposedly for, like.
That's why I look at it. It's like infrastructure. I think you're going to need some scientists. You're going to need some people that actually have some sort of a background on how to support your infrastructure.
That's the other interesting thing. That's the other interesting thing too.
All the stuff.
I think like a huge part of civil engineering is like they do like, concrete research and like trying to figure out how to make a bridge that'll like last a long time, and water and whatever. And, I think
and it won't crush people.
Right. Yes. If it does collapse, it won't crush people. Maybe. I think like I'm pretty certain. Like I'm going to Google this right now. I think a big part of their funding as well comes from the EPA. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, it's got to. It's all like infrastructure. It's all like I can imagine like, the water again, like all of this stuff. It's not. You need people that actually have a fucking clue, right? I mean, if you cut it down, then you're only having to spread less out to more. There's just no way any of that's going to make sense. And it's not like it was well-funded, highly like, any of that before.
Right.
So let's make it with less, because that's also.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, I think the biggest question is what happens now with green energy, right? Like, so we're just we're just kind of like kicking
coal?
Clean coal. So the problem, the thing with clean coal, right?
That's a thing.
So the thing with clean coal, right, is
not a real thing.
What industry means by clean coal is coal that doesn't burn, or coal that doesn't release sulfur or nitrogen compounds, not coal that doesn't like release soot and CO2 and like it's still
like ice cubes.
Yeah, and like the thing about clean coal too is that it, like, just to get sulfur and nitrogen compounds out of like the carbon coal takes a huge amount of energy. So it's like, okay, like we're burning coal, say we get like 100 joules of energy out or whatever. of some piece of coal, right now, let's say like maybe 10 to 20 joules of that comes back. So like 20% of the energy released comes back as like, oh, we need to we need to heat up the fuel or whatever, just whatever, boring engineering stuff. With clean coal,
it's got to go through some sort of a.
Yeah,
it doesn't,
it doesn't just like you put it in a
out.
magic box and it just burns and you're like energy. Yeah. So like like with clean coal that bumps up to like it can bump up as high as like 50%. So it's like, all right, it's and we're gonna run out. Like coal doesn't come back. Coal doesn't come back.
No.
Have you ever actually this was a topic I wanted to do an episode on, but I didn't I never got around to doing it. Maybe I'll do a future one, like a full one, but have you ever heard the idea that oil reserves actually fill back up?
Oh hell no.
So yeah, so there's I think like 3 or 4
cracking or like
no. It's like
when they when they squeeze it out.
Yeah, right? No. So like this is like science
when they squeeze it out.
It's kind of the same idea though. Like so, the idea is that oil doesn't actually come from like dinosaur bones. It actually comes from some geological process. Hell. The devil is
pumping
it back up for us.
Yes,
you said elves. Okay. Well,
maybe
some magical place, whatever.
Because the elves are union, so you can only.
They gotta wait. Elves get Saturdays off, Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah, man, you go into meal penalty with elves, and you're up shit creek. But hell,
elves free labor. Damn.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No, they I think I seriously do think it's like 2 or 3 geologists out of like the whatever hundreds of. I don't know how many geologists there are, but these guys think that like petrol and oil comes back because some of the oil fields that they've drilled, they come back later with like better technology and they're able to get, a little bit more out. So these guys think that if you just let it settle for long enough, the oil will come back. I remember I read that idea, I think in the book. I feel like I read it in Clean Coal. Oh, not Clean Coal. What the hell is that called? That book. Dirty Gold or something. Like something. It was some book about coal. I have it someplace.
I have the same theory about my wine. If I drink all of it and then I just sort of stumble off somewhere and I come back, there's going to be some residual.
It always seems to refill.
What? There's still some left.
It always seems
sort of backwash, but it's still,
Oh God. Oh no.
But I mean, I think the thing that worries me is that's the kind of logic and that's the kind of rigor that's going to be applied to the next 4 years.
Yeah.
For anything. Well, and again, like I'm being generous with the 4 years. I can't imagine like after the first 9 days. I can't imagine us being able to be like a functioning society of barely being civil to one another and having, and being able to get to work in the morning after like 2 or 3 weeks of this.
I don't know. I mean, so I don't know, man. I don't know what's going to happen. It is bad though. It's like legitimately bad. Like we're joking, but like it's like things are actually bad right now, especially for science and scientists. I mean, there are graduate students when those students that are here, when they have to go home and renew their visas every couple of years. Mm-hmm. So like if your PhD is 5 years and you did a 4-year undergrad in the United States, you have to go back. Like certain countries, it's like every 2 years, every 3 years. So you have to go back at least once during your PhD. And usually that process takes like a long ass time anyway. So we had a friend who had to go home to India, and he was due back after Christmas, after the Christmas break, and he just didn't come back for 2 months. And so people checked on him, whatever, and he was just the visa got held up for some reason in India, so he couldn't go back to the US. And so his degree got extended 3 months or something, past I mean, who knows what aggregate effect it actually had, whatever, but now, I mean, it just gets worse now because you have students who are, I mean, what happens if you have to renew your visa in these 90 days? What if he extends it past 90 days? You're screwed.
Well, and the thing that is so amazing to me is the short-sightedness. It's like, who will this, to your point, like, who is this ultimately going to hurt? We're going to lose all of this intelligence, all of this innovation, all of this whatever, because we're idiots.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I don't know, man. I mean,
I have no other way of putting it. It's like, that's
it's going to be an interesting couple of months at least.
I gotta be saying, I don't know who it's good for. I can't even say it's good for Republicans. I mean, shit, you look at Mitch McConnell, and he just looks like he's just like, oh, I thought this was going to be a better idea than it was.
Right,
and
I thought this was going to be good for us.
We know. I mean, how much is the wall again, Paul Ryan? That one, the press conference of him, Paul Ryan and him, and he was like, and he was like, it's like 5, and then Paul, how many billion? Paul Ryan's just like 12. And you could just see like the blood drain out of Mitch McConnell's already lifeless corpse face.
And he looks like a Muppet made out of skin. It's terrible.
Exactly. Welcome, gentlemen. Welcome. Yes, now you're with the rest of us. No, yeah, I know it's pretty gallows humor. All right, so then let's talk about what's upbeat, what's some good stuff.
Yeah, let's talk about some good stuff. So metallic hydrogen this week.
Dude, supposedly. I studied nothing about this. I got nothing.
Don't worry about it. Who cares? This is the very first one. It can only go up from here. Yeah,
you texted me about the metallic, and I'm like, no, I was all about the Joni Mitchell disease. I was all excited about that, and that's all I looked into.
I know. That's for like, okay, all right. The Joni, for those that don't know or can't put it together.
Enter the Sandman is done, and it's like several octaves higher. Metallic hydrogen. Sorry, that's all I got.
What?
Metallica, Enter the Sandman, Metallica. That's all I got. I'm sorry. All right, keep going with the Joni Mitchell disease.
Okay, all right. The Joni Mitchell disease is Morgellons, for anyone that doesn't know. The topic of an upcoming episode. Yes. Basically, people think that like nylon fibers grow out of their skin. Is the basic gist of it.
Could be nylon. They don't know what the fiber is what it, right? I mean, they're looking at under microscopes and all this other stuff, or spectrometers. They did some sort of spectral reading on it.
I think that's the thing is that every time they have done it, it's been like synthetic. It's been like maybe not nylon, but it's always been some polymer that doesn't form in nature. So it's like impossible. Yeah. So I don't know. Anyways, something interesting for an upcoming episode. The metallic hydrogen thing was a paper in Science was recently published where these guys at Harvard they claimed that they basically made hydrogen that could conduct electricity. So hydrogen right now can't conduct electricity, even though, so it's in like, if you look at the periodic table, it's on the left-hand side, and that first column is all metals, right? So it's things like, like lithium and things that really can conduct electricity quite well. And they have other properties of metals, but hydrogen doesn't show any of those, even though it's in the first period of the table. And so scientists I think the first time someone suggested that this was possible was like 1925, 1935, somewhere around there. And so the basic idea is if you could get hydrogen to exist in a semi or a metallic state, then potentially you could make all kinds of interesting things. Maybe it'll show interesting properties because it has all these, hydrogen only has one electron. Right? It's got one.
I'm with you on that.
I know you are. It's got one proton and one electron. So maybe that this pairing will show very interesting properties. But anyways, the way that they did it was literally they crushed an atom of hydrogen under super high pressure in a lab. So they take these diamond presses and just squeeze and squeeze and squeeze and squeeze. And so hydrogen will go from a gas to a liquid to a solid, and then potentially with enough pressure, it should show some kind of electrical properties. But I think, so I haven't read the paper yet, and even if I did, who knows if I'll actually be able to understand it. But I have been reading a lot about the controversy surrounding it. And
I was gonna say, are these guys legit? Like, I mean,
yeah, all these other guys.
Seems like it could be a pretty big deal.
All these other guys working in their field are like, nah, it's bullshit. They're like, you haven't proven anything yet. Because people have claimed to have made this before too. This is not the first time, right? This is like, I think this is like the second or third time some lab has claimed to have made metallic hydrogen. And the issue is that when you're like operating at these really high pressures, it's really hard to measure things, right? Like we're operating at pressures that like don't even exist at the center of the earth practically. So to get like an accurate reading is really difficult, I would imagine. And that's what they're saying in these papers. And so they're now claiming, we'll wait and see if anyone can actually replicate this thing. But yeah, this is not the first time that some universities come out and been like metallic hydrogen, and then like a month later, people are like, "Nah, it's not. It's not metallic hydrogen."
Well, so like it's how. I also assume that it would take more than two people to come up with something like this. I mean, it just is, or is that normally like?
I don't think.
I mean, this is like what's.
Well, so okay, yeah. So first off, so go ahead.
No. That's all I had. Like again, like. I got nothing on the actual science behind this, but I just keep thinking about like that seems like a lot. That seems like that's if there hasn't been a way to even feasibly think about it or talk about it in a certain extent, and it's been not exactly fraud before, but it sounds like it might have been semi fraud before, then and you've got two people doing it. It just seems like it could be, I don't know.
So it's
hokum.
Hokum, bupkis. I don't know what the technical term is, but so the
science, science. It seems like it could be snake oil.
The interesting thing. So like, okay, that's actually a really interesting comment. Like people always. I think when people think of these, like Einstein, right? There's this story that when he came up with the, I think it was the theory of general relativity, he like was staring at a lake or something and saw this light shine through the lake, and he was like, "Oh, I wonder if like the lake." So Marie is sitting in front of a beautiful mural that I guess came with their apartment.
Totally came with the house.
It came with the house, and it's like really pretty nice, but it's got a giant lake on it.
It's got a plein air landscape that's at least 8 feet long in my kitchen.
It's in your kitchen too. Oh, that's nice.
It's in the most used room in the house.
Right, in the room where the walls are most likely to get like spaghetti and like oil and stuff on. Nice.
Which would be great. And I just feel like, again. But you see, he's just sitting right here. He's right over here. There's Einstein.
So, like, I think people have this. I guess I get like people have this view of like a scientist thinking of something and being like, it's just one guy coming up with it, right? But there were like Einstein had graduate students in his lab. He had other people in his lab working. I don't know if they were graduate students, but he had other people working with him on those theories. Like there are other people on that paper with Einstein. There's two other guys on that paper that nobody like talks about. Even though historically it seems like one of them actually thought of the idea. So it's a little, and it's the same way like with DNA too, right? There's a what is her name? I should look that up. There's a female scientist who is like completely forgotten about in the discovery of DNA, but she is like Rosalind Franklin. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I have no idea who she is.
So Watson and Crick in 1953 came up with a molecular structure, or they like suggested the molecular structure based on diffraction data prepared by and given by Rosalind Franklin. So it's like they couldn't have known it without this data. So she's like just, if not more important than them, but she's forgotten. Right. So that like science is full of those things. Right. Like, I mean, I think the most famous. Yeah. Like I think the most famous case of it is Tesla. Right. Where,
yeah.
poor Tesla, man. So Anyways, it's these guys are working in like a field in physics with a lot of other people, right? So there's a whole institute, at least one lab at an institute in Germany dedicated to this research. There's others in the UK. So there's probably at least 100 other scientists working on this thing. And that's why there's people to say like this doesn't look good to us. Right? It's, I mean, and think about it too, right? Like that's kind of how like science is sort of set up that way, where a lone, for better or worse, a lone guy, like a lone person can't just go out and be like, well, I think that this is true, so I'm going to get $1 million grant to fund it. Unless you're, what was that guy from Skinwalker? What was his name? Where he can,
that would be Robert Bigelow, right?
Yeah, where you can search for UFOs and crap because he's got like $1 billion. Not all of us are that lucky. A lot of us peons have to work within the confines of economics, I guess.
You can't just buy. But to that point, he bought. Like it wasn't just him. He bought like a huge amount of scientists of like legit. Like when we were looking at it.
Yeah, they were like from NASA.
They seem legit.
They were like really.
They
were like straight up theoretical physicists. It was crazy.
I haven't seen them on Hunting Bigfoot, so not even his visor role. So I have a feeling they're actually scientists.
Hunting Bigfoot. I always wonder about that. So that the Jeff Meldrum, the guy that's like famous for the Bigfoot, everything. He's a professor of anthropology at Illinois, I think. I want to say it's Illinois or maybe Indiana. But he's like an anthropologist because that's where, paleontology is held, right? It's not like in biology, usually it's in anthropology. Anyways, so he's like a real scientist. He does like primate research and stuff, right? Like with just
he's not a cryptozoologist.
No, he's right. He's like a, I guess, I don't know. I don't know if he's an official zoologist. That'd be cool. Jeff Meldrum, if you're listening, phone in. He's not listening. He's definitely not listening. There's no way.
And if he is, he's horrified.
Yeah, and if he is, he's like, damn it, get my title right.
They're talking about finding Bigfoot. So what I don't get, so they do have, so I have seen it, like I've seen extended periods of it, right? Because I feel like I go into a trance after watching it for a little while. Like I was emailing you about, like, again, they'll examine the stump for 40 minutes, and it's like they're sure they've got some. And they do have this one woman who is a biologist or something. Yeah. And so she's their debunker, right? She's their logic. She's their, like, no, that can't be right. No, come on, you guys. There's nothing knocking or yelling in the woods. But they're all still running around there with the night vision glasses. And it's always in, like, Tennessee or, like, I'm just sort of like, really? Like, this is what I don't understand. It's like, there seems like there would be just a limited market share for this type of thing. But no, what season are they on? Like, how many times are we not going to find Bigfoot? How many times are we going to look at that stump? And go through that dirt, or look at the scat, and they're all like, oh, they also eat deer. And I'm like, here's the thing. I don't know. There's no evidence. There's no evidence. I don't think that if Bigfoot's out there, I don't think it's eating deer. God, ask Katie, but I don't think it eats deer. No,
right. Okay. So for listeners that don't know, Katie is my longtime fiance / common law wife, practically, who is a current vet student, who would know a lot more about this because she's easily a million times smarter than I am. But anyways, the interesting thing is, if you look at other primates, they don't eat meat. They don't eat meat.
Chimps sometimes eat meat, right?
Yeah,
sometimes they'll eat meat, but it's not their natural. I don't think that Bigfoot's going to hunt a deer.
No, it doesn't make any sense. Bigfoot would be like, even us, like we're only, like, I wonder where in our evolution we switched over to like hunting. Like hunting as being a big part of what we could do. I'm sure it must have a lot to do with the ability to build and use tools, right? So like there are chimpanzees and bonobos who use they use sticks to get ants or termites, right?
Yes.
So like that, so they will take in protein from insects
Yes.
And so, I mean, how much longer before they fashion it into a spear, I guess? You know what I mean? Like, probably a million years or so. But it is really interesting. So I wonder, yeah, like I always think that, like, if the argument is Bigfoot is some kind of, like, Neanderthal leftover or something,
Yes.
maybe Bigfoot eats meat. Maybe he eats meat. He or she eats meat, right?
So, but he's a leftover, but like evolutionary wise, at this point, and again, no science in my head whatsoever, but wouldn't you begin to arc back to being more like apes, chimps? I mean, evolutionary, you would either kind of continue on the path of you would be like more human, and we're gonna, I'm gonna go to In-N-Out Burger, or you're gonna go back to more like, I'm a primate. Because we're arguing about something that is probably completely and totally fictional, but
right.
I can't help but think.
Well, okay.
No, if it can't talk, right? Has no communication. It doesn't necessarily use tools, right? And it doesn't. To all intents and purposes, it doesn't herd animals. It doesn't live together in large groups.
Right. No, it's certain. Yeah. There's. Yeah.
Right. So it's not. I don't think it's hunting deer. Which, if you are an aficionado of finding Bigfoot, that's kind of one of their central premises. The tenet, it eats meat. Okay.
So I think the problem. So I think what's interesting is, and by the way, like, I actually do love that show. I find it extremely entertaining, and I want
them to find Bigfoot.
Yes, that's the thing. Like, I know that their hearts are in the right place. I know that they're not, like, I don't think that they're trying to trick people who watch it, right? I do not think that they're trying to trick people. Right?
No.
They straight up, they believe this.
They're believers. And
I think that they're just, kind of, they're hunting in the wrong stumps. They're not, so back to the evolutionary kind of thing. One common mistake people make, I make this myself all the time, and it drives Katie and my friends who are actual biologists crazy, is the idea that evolution is, like, aiming towards something. Right? So people have this idea that everything is trying to be human. Since we're the best at what we do, everything is trying to be human, right? But in fact, like, cockroaches are just as evolved as we are. Because they've been around as long, right? Maybe they haven't gone through as many changes, but... So anyways, so I think this idea of, like, would Bigfoot have become more human, or would it have begun to, like, de-evolve? Probably is misplaced. Like,
yeah, that's true. That's a good point. And
I think that it's probably most likely that if Bigfoot had evolved at all, if Bigfoot exists, it's probably more likely that there are regional variants, right? Because it's not. I mean, if you think, like, how long did it take for there to be a split between like Mexican red wolves and American timber wolves, right? How long did it take? How much evolution did it require for, I'm certain that the answer is going to be like 1 billion years, Chris. So shut up, because you don't know. You're a chemist. You're not a biologist. But and that's the joy of this kind of roundtable discussion, is that whatever.
Like I said, this is all science.
Yeah, it is. It's all science. That's what we're doing. Yeah. So I wonder, like, I think if Bigfoot had evolved at all, it's more likely that there are probably, like, if it's on different continents, no other animal is, like, the same on different continents that hasn't been brought by humans, basically, right?
Yeah, I'm down. I get it. I think, to your point, the Yeti.
Yeah, right? Like, that's why those kind of stories, I think, are cool. Did you see that episode? So, Destination Truth with Josh Gates. He's the man. He's, like, my hero. I love Josh Gates. he went to Tibet and Nepal and was actually granted access to look at these like a Bigfoot's paw. No, that one was weird. It was a replica of a Bigfoot's paw because the one that they had been stolen like 150 years ago or something. But he got to look at a Bigfoot scalp. That I think when they did the analysis, it turned out that it was bear, maybe, or something.
See, this is what I'm talking about. I just, there's a part of me that I know that the mystery and what kind of drives people to keep on the pursuit is the absence of any, right? It's like, I'm gonna keep going. It's the same thing with Oak Island or anything like that. I'm just going to keep digging and digging and digging because I believe that there's something down there. And as soon as you get any kind of confirmation of that, it becomes a lot less interesting, right? It's a bear. It's a bear scalp. You know, and you're just like, motherfucker, it's no Yeti out there.
Damn
right?
it, it's a bear again.
Damn, it's a bear again. It's just a stump, Bobo. It's a stump. But it's like but at the same time, I'm like, man, that's like, I have no idea if it's out there. I would love to think that it's out there. And you know, even though, again, like the guys that we work with at the other podcast, they always say, you know, there's a little scorn and derision with Bigfoot. I would love to think that there's a Bigfoot or a Jersey Devil.
Oh yeah,
right?
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Who knows?
Fire up on that.
We don't
that's
know.
Some good stuff. We don't know. Why not? But I think that's when you sort of like, you just a little something. Just a little something.
Yeah.
Just a little something. Yeah. Just look at the Oak Island, man. Just a little something. Just a little like something besides dirt. Besides dirt and water. Besides dirt and water and millions
we really should do an Oak Island one, but it's so well done by Scott and Forrest that there's there's no more room. Like, it's so, just listen to theirs. Maybe that'll be my whole Oak Island episode. Will be, this is the Mad Scientist podcast on Oak Island. I'm going to direct you to Astonishing Legends. Just listen to theirs, because it's way better than anything I could have done. Oh God! All right,
it's Francis Bacon or Shakespeare stuff or whatever.
Or Saint Germain or something. Saint Germain.
It's Saint Germain. Saint Germain's down there with
time.
with just some oatmeal or something, just eating, laughing at us still. Sorry.
So one cool thing that I want to do in these roundtables is listener questions. I actually got one.
Oh God!
From Sean Locke, who is awesome for sending me one. Thank you very much, Sean. So he is a semi-driver. He's actually the truck driver that they always talk about on Astonishing Legends as a good fan. And so we're really lucky to have gotten him as a fan as well, which is awesome. And so he actually,
you had him up until this day, and then you were like, "Hey, this roundtable thing with this chick who knows."
Right. I had him until now, and now he's out. It's done.
And now he's just like, "Oh shit, cut my loss."
But if we still have him to this point, then he wanted to know about the Hollow Earth theory.
Oh God, yeah.
So that is going to be a big part of an upcoming episode on aliens, basically. But I thought it'd be kind of fun to talk about a little bit here first. So, Marie, what do you know about the Hollow Earth theory?
Oh man. First of all, practically nothing. And that is one of the things that I love about doing the research for the Legends is they'll be like, "Oh my God, we're going to do it's canon. We're going to do Mothman." And I'm like, "What's a Mothman?" You know, because I don't really know very much about any of this stuff until you start digging into it. But I think that's what's so fascinating is what you find out. But okay, so Hollow Earth, I have
okay.
I got nothing.
All right. So let's go over it a little bit.
Sean's
and then
just like, crap.
I know. Sean's like, you haven't prepared it all. Come on. All right. So the Hollow. I didn't tell you. So sorry. The Hollow Earth.
About Joni Mitchell disease from here.
I know.
Nothing on Hollow Earth. Nothing.
I put Marie on Morgellons and electromagnetic hypersensitivity for the upcoming ones on medical weirdness, which are coming soon, by the way.
And they will be relatively well researched, unlike
Hollywood. Very well.
There's nothing at the center of the Earth.
300% more research than some of the other episodes, which will be phenomenal. Okay, Hollow Earth theory, right? The idea is that So it's actually gone through a lot of permutations. Originally, the idea was that in the center of the Earth, so the Earth was the center of the universe, right?
Yes.
And so at the center of the Earth was some kind of like hell sort of area, right? So like the Mayans had this idea of hell existing in a cave somewhere. It was like, and it was really interesting actually, the Mayan hell, like you went through this cave where there was like a pit of jaguars, then a pit of snakes, then a pit of acid. Anyways, so, pretty cool as far as caves go, I guess. So that kept like, that idea kept going around that, well, if the Earth is the center of the universe because God created everything on Earth, then at the center of the Earth was some kind of immortal plane, hell or whatever. And then on the outer center of the sphere was heaven, right? Was Olympus or whatever. And that kind of it's a very simplified version of like where the beginning of that came from, that idea. But over time, that's now gone through like a bunch of permutations, right? So first it was this idea that, okay, well, and this kind of goes like I'm sure there are people at home saying like, well, what about the Earth being flat? Like why, like, didn't people think the Earth was flat for a long time? Mm-hmm. That's another topic for another episode, but it's the same kind of idea, really, right? If the Earth is flat, then underneath the flat Earth, who knows what's there, right? Maybe it's some kind of other area, whatever. Anyways.
Or whatever is above it. Yep, I'm with you.
Yeah. So the modern permutation of this idea is that in the hollow Earth, aliens live.
Awesome.
Specifically the reptilians.
Oh.
Yeah.
Snap. Okay, I'm back on.
Yeah.
I actually know about this.
Okay. All right, nice. We're good.
Snap.
Reptilians right up your alley.
Well, yeah.
Reptilians your thing. So the idea is that like they go into it and out of it in like either the ocean as USOs, or they do it like in the Arctic or the Antarctic, right? Mm-hmm. And like that's why every couple of months someone on Google Earth is like, I found the entrance to the hole. It's like just a shadow or something.
Also touched on with Lake Baikal.
Yes, I think we did touch on it a little bit. That these like giant space,
right? That this was maybe one of the
silver monster things, right?
All right. Okay.
So Sean's exact question was, why are we so sure that that the center of the Earth isn't hollow? Right? Like, could the Earth be hollow? And actually, the answer to that is that if the Earth were hollow, it wouldn't move in space the way that it does. That's like that's like pretty much the actual answer. Like I'm gonna do more don't worry, Sean, there'll be more detailed evidence of this. But that's basically the idea.
I
like
alt-facted something else so much more interesting because science says so.
I know. So okay, no, but it's not just that science says so. So like if the Earth was hollow, right? We could measure, or we could approximate the weight of the Earth. Right? So like,
let's take a guess. Would it affect the wobble, the spin?
It would affect the wobble. Yeah. So it's like it's like a wiffle ball being thrown versus a solid baseball, right? Or a bowling ball, whatever. Depending on the innards of the ball, it'll kind of move through the air differently, right? It'll have different, different spin, different torque, whatever. Mm-hmm. So it just so happens that if we assume the Earth as a solid sphere made out of iron and whatever, all this, innards kind of stuff, it works perfectly, right? And also now we know all kinds of other things, right? So if we have other tools and techniques that we can use to kind of measure things, but that's kind of the quick answer to it.
What about, oh God, I'm going to make such a fool out of myself and report it. It's also, what about like the movements of the plates? I mean, that's coming from someplace that is all the way down to the center of something.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing. Like
if something's moving, it has to be moving from a solid and not, because if it didn't have anything in the center, then we would just sort of be
floating around. Well, that's the thing too. Like
people probably have come up with some stabilizing. I was
going to say,
okay.
We also now know all kinds of other things about how planets form, right? Mm-hmm. So how would, if a planet forming is literally from like the spin of it around, and again, we should talk to like an astrophysicist about this actually.
We should.
And there is one listening. There is at least one listening. Hopefully right now, unless we've already lost her in this episode.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right. Unless she's already gone, which I hope she isn't. we now know that when a planet forms or any kind of when any body forms in space, it's like, it'll spin around and then mass will accrue and it just builds off of itself, right? It just keeps building on top of this thing like a giant, like a snowball, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
So again, like how would you build a hollow sphere from natural processes?
Out of nothing.
Out of just like spinning, out of just like rotation of mass gathering together, right? It'd be really hard. Like the way we do it now when we make something hollow is we make something solid with a meltable center or something.
Or you bring two things together.
Or you ring two things together. So like, how the hell would that happen in space? It can't unless
it's just like with aliens. A pearl, you have to have some sort of grit or something that something
right
to and builds out.
Exactly. So, again, the answer that we just gave is basically because science says so.
Science says, but now let's go for pro and con and talk about lizard people.
All right, let's talk about lizard people.
If it is hollow, then then they clearly have the technology, but they are able to deceive us with this, and they are able to, and maybe it's not hollow so much as it is segmented. Okay, so maybe it actually has. Just bear with me.
Okay, all right, I'll bear with you.
Be like, you know what? I thought this was a good idea just when I had never talked to her really in person. We were just texting, and now I'm thinking, shit. I don't know.
Science is in the title, Marie. Okay. Science is in the title.
I know.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, maybe it has a solid center, but it has pockets wherein these lizard people are taking up residency, and ergo, you don't have to have a solid center because you have different areas that they are occupying. Russia. Yeah. I don't know.
Could be.
I don't know.
If there are any lizard people listening, you can call up.
Shout
please.
Out. You know what?
Please, we'd love.
I've never understood, and just to take a quick step back, I've never understood. And we maybe should talk to some other ARC members about this that are better versed in this type of stuff. But I've never really understood the different, like, okay, you've got your lizard people, right? But you've got your grays, and then you have your whole different, your whole different classifications.
Right.
So, but the lizard people always seem like they're the ones that are all down with the shit, right? They're the ones that are causing the problem. They're the New World Order. They're the ones that are, actually physically destabilizing anything within our, making plans to enslave the masses, right? I don't understand why you would have to do that from the center of the earth necessarily. And again, I would love to gather some more information about that.
Right.
It seems like you could do that pretty good. You could
from space,
from Breitbart.
Right. I think so. I think that the argument they always make is so number one with the races or whatever. I think that's sort of like a. I think that actually started.
Is it evolutionary? It could be evolutionary. No, it could be like.
I mean, that's been on the top of my upcoming episodes lists forever.
What
these ideas of doing evolution of aliens? Why would they evolve that way? Right. Anyways, all right, whatever.
I think that's between you and me. I think that's between you and me and everyone listening. I think it's a largely cultural thing, right? 50s game is what we thought a ship should look like, and
just the idea that they would appear and be basically humanoid. That does this is not a very good design. You could look at a picture of me and know that this is not a good design for a thing. It's not working, right? It doesn't work out very well necessarily. I don't know. I think actually the whole reptilian thing started with Indrid Cold and Mothman.
Seriously?
They were so that was the first case of contactees, right? And so when he started talking to them, there were people that had contacts with it's really weird. There's one that we didn't really touch on, but I think is really hilarious is the aliens that look like Heidi Klum that just want to come down and bang drunk guys, right?
Really?
They go down.
I think Earth for that because that's a really good place to come for that type of thing.
Right. they come down and they're like, "You're special, Bill. Let's do it."
Oh my
like,
God, Kyle. You're so attractive and so smart.
Yeah, it's always like, and so those are called
Excellent.
the Norse aliens, right? They're usually thought of as being from like Saturn or Venus.
Okay.
Which,
As
like,
you do.
There's
Yeah, makes sense.
right, of course. And then there are like the reptilians are from like, so then like the Greys are some kind of, sometimes they're like friendly, sometimes they're menacing. It's weird. But the reptilians started. The reptilians were like, if you remember that one, there was the one time where in Woody's book he talks about that they warned him about another race that like, and actually it's really funny. In his book he claims that the Greys are like the like the dumb bad seeds of the alien confederacy. Like they come down to Earth and they just like steal stuff because they don't know, there's like no no concept of ownership on their planet. So it's like if you set something down, you no longer have it, so it's not yours.
Oh.
So they just like come down for knickknacks. Right? And maybe they're searching for things up people's cavities. I don't know.
Sundry items.
Right.
They come down.
It doesn't make any sense.
It's like Costco. It's like we're at the world's Costco.
Right. We're just where everyone gets their crap.
That's it. It must be it.
But yeah. So like the reptilians, I think they're supposed to be this like I don't know, this like scary thing, whatever. But it's the most, one of the most famous cases is this lady claims that she has children with a reptilian male or whatever. And so there's like a drawing of, she draws her son and it's just like a normal guy's face. And then the drawing next to it of her, like when he's a reptilian is like, it's like that same normal face, but with like squares for scales and like kind of a green tinge to it.
Okay. So here's my other question. So how do you pass as a reptilian so do you change? Is this
transform.
Like, they can transform. Okay.
That's the thinking, that they can transform because they're.
Is it like V, like from the series from the 80s? You probably wouldn't. Do you remember V?
No,
oh my God, that was.
I was
excellent.
not alive in the 80s.
Oh, I know. God love you. I was, and it was an excellent show. It was basically about the invasion and the subsequent, rebellion against the aliens that came down, who said, no, we're peace loving and we just want to help you with your technology. And they looked like us. So we were all like, oh, everything's good. And then in one scene, I remember they had this woman eat a guinea pig and we were like, oh, she's bad. She literally ate a guinea pig. And then they would rip off their faces and there would be reptiles underneath. And no, it's the reptiles. And so now every time I think about or we go down the path of discussing aliens and the reptiles come up, I'm like, it's just like V all over again, man. They're just coming for our water. They're just coming for our water and to knock up our virgins. And all
right. It's okay.
There goes society.
No. We don't have
sorry, Sean.
much time. Sorry, Sean. We don't have much time left. But actually, that reminds me of a very funny, a weird thing I saw on, I think it might have been Josh Gates again. I can't remember exactly, but they're in Peru and they're talking about like tribal medicine or something. And so one of the ways to get a demon out of your body with like shamanism, whatever, is to get a guinea pig and rub it on your body. And so the guinea pig will take in the demon. And then I think you like have to eat the guinea pig or something. So it ends badly.
Yeah.
But every time Katie is sick.
PETA gets like.
Yes. Every time Katie's sick, I'll take one of our cats and I'll rub it on her and I'm like, gotta eat her now. It's over. Goodbye. Bye, Chippy. We don't have a guinea pig, but we got a cat. That's it.
And that's why it doesn't work. It's gotta be a guinea pig.
That must be what it is. I don't have the magic in me.
You don't?
All right.
You do. That's not true. Got science, which is better than magic.
That's a nice ending to this
You don't
episode.
have a guinea pig.
I don't have a guinea pig either. I don't have the magic or a guinea pig. Come on.
Shit out of luck.
Damn it. All right, folks. Well, that's it for this week's episode. I will be back next week with a full episode on medical mysteries. That'll be more serious in tone, and back to like research. And then again with another one of these roundtables. If you enjoyed it, please send me a message. Let me know.
Oh God, I'm sorry, America.
I'm sorry, America. I have a worldwide listenership. I'll have you know.
I'm sorry, international world of art.
Exactly. You're sorry to the world.
I'm sorry for the. I am actually. Had I known I was going to be quizzed on Hollow World, I would have come up with something else besides. I don't know.
It's all right. Thank you again for listening. I'm Chris Cogswell. You are.
I'm Marie Mayhew. This was a pleasure. Thank you very much. I had a lot of fun with it.
That is the Mad Scientist Roundtable discussion. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Thanks.